The beginning of our Parsha this week has one of the strangest encounters in the entire Torah. Parshat Vayera begins by describing how God appears to Abraham, and all of a sudden, Abraham notices three strangers approaching. And Abraham then, according to the traditional interpretation of the text, he turns to God, and in effect he says, "Hang on a minute, I'll be right back. I gotta go take care of something important. I hope you don't mind." And Abraham then leaves God and goes to welcome the strangers into his home. And it's from this story that Chazal teach us that welcoming guests is even more important than welcoming God's presence, the Holy Shekhinah. But isn't that strange? How could that possibly be? After all, isn't one of man's primary functions to connect and build a relationship with God? How could we even suggest for a moment that it's preferable to put God on hold in order to interact and to welcome guests into our homes? And yet I think that is precisely what these psukim, I think that's precisely what these verses are coming to teach us. You see, in some religions and philosophies, the emphasis is on man finding himself by practicing solitude, by seeking deeper inner experiences, having no relations whatsoever with others. And in fact, an article from Psychology Today posited that what really blocks our joy in relationships and our creativity and our connection to spirituality is actually a lack of solitude, if you could believe it. And in Judaism, we certainly value this notion of solitude, of being alone with one's thoughts. For instance, we have the silent Amidah, and we also have other opportunities to find those quiet moments. But those moments are earmarked, and in a certain sense, they are the exception to the general rule. You see, in Judaism, life is with people. One can only feel most human, most in tune with the world and with God when a person is with others. Loneliness is the worst curse that can befall a person. As we read a few weeks ago, Lo tov hayot adam levado, man was not meant to be alone, and in that sense, loneliness does not enhance one's peace, but rather distorts it. And so it's not that Avram puts God on hold and never calls him back, but rather Abraham knew that he could reach God so much more easily with people than by himself. And what Chazal are teaching us here is the importance of a community and of the connection of Jews to other Jews. Said another way, Chazal are teaching us that Achdut Yisrael, the unity of our people, is perhaps the best way for us to welcome the Holy Shekhinah, the divine presence, into our lives and into our homes. And over the last few months, we have really gotten a better understanding. We have a much better appreciation for this idea. Living in quarantine alone or at social distance from others, not being able to attend classes or programs or davening or have meals with friends and family over Shabbat, it has all made it even more challenging for us to connect with each other in the same way that Abraham did. We feel a sense of loss, and that we really now know how much stronger we can really be spiritually when we're together than when we are apart. And for that reason, while we might not be able to be breaking bread together in the same room, we can certainly find other ways to support one another and to build those communal connections. We can create a sense of welcome, generosity of spirit, of openness in so many ways that helps us strengthen our Jewish unity and brings us much closer to God. And in fact, in our Parsha, when the three malachim, when the three angels, when they come to Avram, he quickly goes to prepare milk and butter and bread and meat for them. But the Torah describes how Avram only returns with the milk and the butter and the meat. It doesn't mention the bread. How could Avram forget the bread, a staple of every meal? And the Chidah explains, based on a Gemara in Bava Metzia, that Avram, in fact, purposely left out the bread as a way to make his guests feel most comfortable. In other words, it wasn't the meal or the food that was the essence of Avram's hospitality, but rather the experience and the environment that he hoped to create. We don't need to be physically together in order to support each other. All we need is a little creativity and some determination, and we can build the connections with each other. And frankly, this message is even more critical today at a time when our country is more divided than ever, at a time when the Jewish community is facing constant and new threats and battles. It's now that we must channel our inner strength. It's now that we need to learn from Avram to act on this ideal such that when we are together, we can more easily reach Hashem. And so may each of us learn from Abraham, who chose to welcome guests as a way to call back, as a way to connect to Hashem. May we each find the company of our fellow and the love and the support of a community and of a nation, so that we too can more easily reach God and find meaning in our lives. Shabbat Shalom.